Welcome to the Curator's Corner. My name is Hanako Wakatsuki, and I'm the Chief of Interpretation and Education at the Minidoka National Historic Site, with collateral duties working with the Minidoka collection. In the National Park Service, we tell America's story by preserving the items that represent them. We are grateful that many people have chosen to donate their family items to the National Park Service. Today we will be exploring the Minidoka bitter brush from 1942, collected by Takagi Edward Abe. Mr. Abe was an Issei man who immigrated to the United States in 1907 at the age of 19. Born in 1887 in Okayama-ken, Japan, Mr. Abe settled in Seattle, Washington. In 1919, he married his wife Sadako. The image on the left is the passenger list of the Shinano Maru when he arrived in Seattle, and the image on the right is his marriage certificate. At many of the War Relocation Authority camps, a unique type of artistic activity emerged that was influenced by the surrounding landscape. At Minidoka, this activity was searching for and the gathering of greasewood or bitterbrush by incarcerees. Incarcerees would wander out miles into the desert, like this image at Minidoka, seeking the most interesting-looking or gnarled-up specimen. Objects carved out of the wood could be polished to a high gloss due to its high oil content. People made a wide variety of things out of them, like canes or ornamental objects. Here is an image of Kenneth Hikogawa polishing greasewood at Minidoka, and the image to the right are examples of greasewood or bitterbrush items in our permanent collection. This wood was one of 8 pieces that was collected by Mr. Abe. Mr. Abe lived in Block 3, Barrack 11, Unit D, up in the northwest section of the camp as indicated on the map with a red circle. He went out on December 1st, 1942 to gather wood when he became lost in a storm. He got disoriented and ended up walking parallel to the camp. Some 1,200 volunteers searched for him for a few days before his body was found 4 miles away from the camp, succumbing to the elements. Mr. Abe became one of the first people to pass away at Minidoka at the age of 55. His death certificate said he died of exposure due to cold and hunger, due to being lost in the desert. The wood was held by his family for 3 generations. There were 8 pieces of wood that the family gave to Jerry Ed Abe, who then commissioned Mira Nakashima, former incarceree at Minidoka and president of the George Nakashima Woodworkers, to make an art piece. The image on the left showed 3 of the 8 pieces that were being turned into art. The image on the right is Vaishu, holding pieces of Mr. Abe's wood. At the request of Mr. Ed Abe, the wood has finally become a memorial to all those who died at Minidoka, and it was donated to the Minidoka National Historic Site in 2019. We will now hear from Mira Nakashima on the artwork that she created.
Hello everybody, my name is Mira Nakashima and I was incarcerated in Minidoka in 1942 when I was barely hatched, and then we moved to Pennsylvania at the invitation of Anton and Raymond in 1943, so we were not incarcerated as long as the rest of our family. But so we've been in New Hope since 1943, and my father, when he was at Minidoka, spent a lot of time working with the bitterbrush. There are pictures that the WRA had taken of my father when he was working at Minidoka, and he had an assistant by the name of Gentaro Hikogawa, who was Japanese and trained in Japan, and he worked alongside my father, cleaning up the bitterbrush and using it in different places. So when Jerry Abe contacted me with the story of Ed Abe's bitterbrush collection and his death by freezing in Minidoka while gathering it, I was deeply saddened by the story, which was so close to home. When he told me that he had persuaded the Abe family to put the collection they had carefully preserved for so many years into a monument in memory of Ed Abe and the Issei who had passed away at Minidoka, at the new Minidoka Visitor Center last year, and that his father, also an architect, had actually measured and drawn up the now famous map of Minidoka, and that he wanted me to make something out of it, I was humbled and wondered why me. But when he insisted that I should be responsible for the project and hand carry the precious wood to the studio, I felt that the wood was somehow sacred. and should remain as intact and unmodified as possible, rather than cutting it and making it into a recognizable object, such as a lamp or a mirror frame. I tucked the box of precious wood in the basement for a while, wondering what I should do with it and what it wanted to be. When I brought it upstairs and studied each piece individually and arranged them in different ways, one piece, larger than the others, had 3 branches, already cut like a free-form tripod, and it stood up proudly by itself. And I thought, oh, this is a man in the desert. And then another 2 pieces were both rather flat and sinewy, and when put together at right angles, looked like a bird in flight, or a crucifix, a symbol of crucifixion and resurrection. As my design assistants Jason and Vaishu also pondered what to do with the remaining pieces, thinking that perhaps a mobile could be made, Jason suggested using a walnut rod and brass wires and eye hooks to suspend the pieces, but he would need some counterweights to balance it properly. A few years earlier, one of our clients had harvested a wild spalted maple burl from his property in Pennsylvania and asked that it be sawn into planks, dried, and made into sculpture or tables. 2 of the smaller pieces reminded me of clouds, perhaps the nuclear clouds that rose over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 and ended the war, but destroyed so many lives and so much property in our motherland, Japan. So these 2 clouds became part of the mobile. Cleaning and polishing the rough surfaces of the wood had been a favorite pastime for many of the incarcerees in Minidoka, including my father. So Vaishu set about to clean and polish the bitter brush and watch the rich wood grain and colors come to life. Meanwhile, Jason purchased the wire and walnut and rods and figured out the balance points and the length of the wires by trial and error. We temporarily assembled and hung it in the studio with rubber bands and wire before final assembly, and then Jason carefully disassembled the pieces and packed them in a box to ship to Minidoka. So that year, last year, my grandson Toshi and my daughter-in-law Sumi decided to come with us to Minidoka on the pilgrimage. So he and his mother helped unpack and reassemble the mobile and eventually hung it from the ceiling of the new visitor center in August of 2019. It's hard to see it against the similarly colored wooden ceiling, but we are so proud to have been asked to contribute to the monument at Minidoka. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining the Minidoka National Historic Site for our Curator's Corner. You can learn more about Minidoka National Historic Site on our website. If you have any questions, please contact me, Hanako Wakatsuki, via email or phone.